All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, man. I feel like this is such a cool video. Um, Again, I love watching movies, man. I mean, love it. I'm still trying to figure out how to do movie reactions, man, so I can get that going. Like, I'm still trying to work out all the kinks. So stay tuned. But we're back on the Grunge channel, and we got movies everyone should see at least once in their life. Now, y'all be surprised, man. I really got to get this chair fixed. I watch so many movies, man. Love going to the movies and just catching up on things that might just pop up. But again, appreciate y'all coming over. Comment below on what you guys have seen from this list and what also should be on the list. I think the comment section might be even better than the video. All right, so we ain't gonna waste no more time. Let's jump right into it.
Zodiac. It's human nature to want to solve complicated puzzles and crack unsolved mysteries. But sometimes there are questions that just can't be answered. Like, who ended 5 people's lives in Northern California during the late 60s and early 70s? He called himself Zodiac, and nobody ever discovered his true identity, although that wasn't for lack of trying. The case inspired quite a few sleuths, and while most walked away defeated, a few
I don't want to give it away for people who haven't seen it, so I ain't gonna say nothing.
Would never give up until they looked the killer right in the eye. That's where David Fincher's Zodiac comes in. It's a study of obsession, on what happens to a person when curiosity keeps gnawing away at his mind.
You got 4 crime scenes, not a single usable print. You can't think of this case in normal police terms.
The movie follows a trio of heroes, a detective played by Mark Ruffalo, a reporter played by Robert Downey Jr., and a cartoonist played by Jake Gyllenhaal, chasing down the hooded serial killer. Zodiac is about the never-ending search and how that quest can change from dedication to obsession. Granted, if you're looking for a gore fest, you might want to pass on this film. This is a story about chasing after shadows and accepting the fact that you might never know all the answers. Looper. Time travel is a common trope in science fiction. It's used so often that it can get pretty stale, and that's why Looper is a treat for any film fan. Written and directed by Rian Johnson, Looper uses the genre's time-bending conventions to focus on how violence only begets violence, and how our actions can wreak havoc across generations. In this universe, gangsters from
I seen the trailer for this, but I didn't actually see this. I might have to check this out. What y'all think? Comment below.
Conventions to focus on how violence only begets violence, and how our actions can wreak havoc across generations. In this universe, gangsters from 2074 send their victims back to 2044, where they're disposed of by hitmen like Young Joe, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It's a lucrative job, but as part of the deal, Joe will eventually have to shoot his older self to close his loop. Only old Joe, Bruce Willis, isn't going to sit around and let his younger self end his own life. This kicks off a film about a guy literally trying to find himself.
You done all this already? As me?
I don't want to talk about time travel, because if we start talking about it, then we're going to be here all day talking about it, making diagrams with straws.
The more young Joe learns, the more he gets sucked into a twisty revenge plot. In a medium that often glorifies brute force, Looper shows that violence, even when done for understandable reasons, doesn't solve problems. It just makes them worse. Ex Machina. From Metropolis to Her, science fiction movies have always been interested in examining man's relationship with technology, often reflecting the worries and concerns of their time. After all, technology is constantly evolving and constantly creating new benefits and new drawbacks. Nowhere is that more evident than in Alex Garland's Ex Machina.
Are you attracted to me?
What?
Are you attracted to me? You give me indications that you are.
I do?
Yes.
The story centers on a young programmer named Caleb, who wins the chance to spend a few days working with Nathan, a wealthy super genius. When Caleb shows up at Nathan's secluded cabin, he quickly becomes part of a complicated test, tasked with interviewing a beautiful robot named Ava. Caleb soon develops a crush on the imprisoned Ava, while Nathan clearly enjoys his status as a creator god. As for Ava, she just wants to be free. This brilliant film grapples with the ethical and moral questions about how humans should treat artificial intelligence, And it also deals with relevant themes like the issue of surveillance. But there's something else going on in Ex Machina, as the film is a deeply disturbing study about the different ways men objectify and abuse women. By the end of the movie, you might start questioning everything you're seeing, with a few gut punches along the way that'll leave you thinking about Ex Machina for quite some time. Whiplash. If we know one thing for sure about Damien Chazelle, it's that the man loves himself some jazz music. For proof, look no further than Whiplash, the director's breakout film. The movie stars Miles Teller as an ambitious young drummer named Andrew, a guy desperately hoping to join a prestigious band at the music conservatory he attends. But if he wants to make the cut, first he has to impress Terrence, a snarling, swearing, instrument-throwing conductor played by J.K. Simmons. This is not a man who's easily impressed. Driven by his need for perfection, Andrew dedicates every waking hour to becoming the world's best jazz drummer, practicing so hard that his fingers bleed. Meanwhile, he burns every bridge and ruins every relationship in his life, all to achieve his goal of greatness. Andrew only grows more and more obsessed with impressing Terrence and becoming the next Buddy Rich. Sure, he's becoming a horrible person, but he's going to get his face on the Mount Rushmore of jazz music. That's why Whiplash is such a fascinating film. It's all about the price of success, similar to Chazelle's La La Land, and it suggests that while you might become the greatest drummer who's ever lived, you'll probably have more fans than friends. The Invitation. There are a lot of great movies out there about grief, like Ordinary People and Manchester by the Sea, but the scariest might be Karin Kusama's The Invitation. This is the ultimate dinner party gone wrong movie, one that will have you sitting on the edge of your seat the entire time, screaming at the characters to get out of the house. Unfortunately, they won't listen, because they're far too polite. The Invitation follows a guy named Will, played by Logan Marshall Green, who's experienced a terrible tragedy that ruined his marriage. Now, he's received an invitation from his ex-wife, Eden, played by Tammy Blanchard, for a get-together at her Hollywood Hills home. All the old gang's gonna be there, and Will reluctantly agrees to attend. But when he arrives, he feels something is terribly wrong. Probably because Eden won't stop talking about the weird cult she's just joined. Or perhaps everything feels off because Will...
Boy, doesn't that just sound like a Hollywood movie? I bet stuff be going on like this for sure. Oh, yes. They said a cult, Hollywood Hills. Hey, they're telling on themselves.
Was still trying to cope with that tragedy from his past, an event that occurred in this very house. As his emotions come boiling to the top, Will must grapple with old wounds that never healed, while trying to convince the other guests, all too nice to question their host's odd behavior, that something weird is happening.
You think we're crazy? I never said that.
It's okay. I'm not offended. A lot of people think we're crazy.
It's a nail-biter of a film that deals with pain, loss, and the power of social norms. And by the way, it ends with one of the creepiest final shots in thriller history. The Babadook. Being a parent, especially a single mom, is incredibly hard. Something Amelia knows only too well. She was left a widow when her husband was in a car wreck, and now she's alone with her 7-year-old son Samuel. Amelia and Samuel's relationship is complicated. He's basically a devil child. He screams, cries, and metaphorically suffocates his mom. She loves the boy, but she kinda hates him too. Just when Amelia reaches the edge of her sanity, a grisly pop-up book shows up at her house. This isn't your normal bedtime story though. Instead, it's a children's tale about Mr. Babadook, a murderous demon with some very bad plans for Amelia and her boy. Soon, our hero sees the spirit lurking in the shadows, and as the monster gets closer and closer, Amelia's relationship with Samuel takes an even darker turn.
Oh!
The Babadook did it, Mom!
Written and directed by Jennifer Kent, this Australian film works perfectly as a first-rate fright flick. In fact, William Friedkin, director of The Exorcist, said it was the scariest movie he'd ever seen. But really, The Babadook feels more like a compassionate version of The Shining. The movie works on multiple levels, examining the depths of depression and the pain and suffering of being a parent. It's a story about battling your demons and keeping them at bay, even if you know full well that you'll never truly defeat them. Get Out. Warning: The less you know about Get Out, the better. If you want to keep completely spoiler-free, just know that writer-director Jordan Peele has crafted one of the greatest horror movies of the 2010s. One that surpassed all box office expectations and impressed nearly every critic on Earth. You should also know that Get Out is a movie about racism, but not the kind that involves rednecks, nooses, or burning crosses. Daniel Kaluuya plays Chris Washington, a black photographer dating a white woman, played by Allison Williams. She wants Chris to meet her parents, but Chris isn't sure that's a good idea. He knows a thing or two about being a black guy in a white world. Nevertheless, Chris gives in, and Mom and Dad certainly seem friendly. Many cringy compliments later, we begin to wonder if these people aren't quite as PC as they seem. And maybe that's true about more Americans than we think.
Do you find that being African American has more advantage or disadvantage in the modern world?
We won't give away any more of the plot, but rest assured, things get really scary really fast. The movie plays out like those horrific conspiracy classics from the 60s and 70s, like Rosemary's Baby or The Stepford Wives, with its ever-growing sense of dread. Peele's debut film is a brilliant satire of race relations in the US, while also featuring one of cinema's creepiest party scenes and an intense climax, to say the least. Thanks for watching. Click the grunge icon to subscribe to our YouTube.
Yeah, man, Get Out. Oh, like if you haven't seen Get Out, watch it and then immediately watch things you might have missed from the movie. I love doing that with Jordan Peele movies because he be having so many hidden messages, and it'd be stuff in there where for sure you would have to watch the movie twice to like really understand. But when you go watch those like Easter egg things that people be doing, stuff you might have missed, you'll be like, oh, like, yeah. But wow, there was a lot of stuff in there I haven't seen. A lot. Wow. I don't know if I can watch that Babadook because that looks, that looks creepy. But the Invitation, I want to see that. I want to see that. But please comment below if you guys have seen any movie in here, if they're worth watching. But you know, to each his own, because like it's so crazy. Like someone will be like, "Oh, that movie sucked," and you go watch it, and you be like, "Oh, this movie was amazing," you know. So yeah, comment below on if any of these movies you guys have seen. But appreciate y'all coming over again, and shout out to the Grunge channel, man. Peace out.